today we're here with Hayden Wadsworth. Hayden with Hydrojug. Man, what an amazing venture you've been on the last little bit. I'm excited that he's here today. He's got a good story to tell. Under 30. What are you?
I'm 29.
Like your whole company's under 30.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You have like one outlier I read in the magazine yesterday.
We have
right?
a few more now, but yeah, we probably have like 5 people.
Yeah, right. Like 32 was one. Like he was the outlier at the old man stage or gal, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So anyway, he's had an amazing story, a great run up. He's been in business now for what, 3 years?
This is our 5th year.
5th year.
Yeah.
Oh, that just tells you how fast the years pass because we talked initially. It's flying. Flying. Well, so you're 5 years deep. Yep. And everybody's heard of it. It's Hydrojug, and it's exciting. So anyway, I'm excited to get it going. Let's go ahead and roll the music.
If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle.
Yeah, this is Houston. We're copying. Everything is go here.
We shall fight on the beaches and in the streets. We shall never surrender.
I'm in it just to rewrite history, cause I'm in the mood to label us the leaders of the new school. This ain't for the radio, can't find this on YouTube. This the type of killing that these critics ain't used to.
You're a group of happy rebels. You've said no to the rules of the game and the regulations of the day. You've said no to the conventional wisdom. You're all originals.
In this day and age, I got time for innovation, time to be creative, time to make the waste of my time on critics hating.
Well, awesome, Hayden. Thank you so much for coming here today. And it was last minute. We had a cancellation on a flight.
Yeah.
Guy wasn't feeling good, didn't want to get on a plane, and thank you for making yourself available.
For sure. Yeah, I was super excited when you reached out.
Yeah, well, I was excited you said yes. I was more excited. I mean, Ogden local, right here, known you worked with your dad for a lot of years in the fire department, and had a little conversation a few years ago about this jug that you were working on, and jugs are way outside my realm. Yeah. And I was kind of like, I don't know, what are you going to do with a jug?
Yeah,
like, it really didn't quite understand it. I'm like, they're everywhere, but hey, good luck. And dude, I am so freaking proud of you sitting here looking around, see your numbers. Inc. 33, fastest growing.
Yep.
33. That's mind blowing, brother.
It's happened fast. Everything's happened really fast. I remember my dad would talk to a lot of his friends, like people. So he had a buddy that he had sourced stuff from China. And he was like, hey, will you talk to my son? My son's kind of getting into like sourcing from China and this product. And he's like, well, do you want me to talk him into it or out of it?
And over the last like 6 months, it feels like out of it, right? It's really hard to get our stuff across the border.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's. I mean, everything. So with supply chain, so luckily it seems like everything kind of happens good timing because we hired like a supply chain guy before. It was just me doing it. And we hired a supply chain guy. They have a full team now. And, but yeah, I mean, we're just super heavy.
You have to.
You have to be.
Inventory's crazy. Do you have all your warehouses here, or do you have any in California?
All here.
All here. So you're bringing it inland. You're Long Beach to here?
Yep. And one thing that's really helped us is we're paying for it to be trucked. So we're not even putting it on the rail.
At all, huh? We have a rail if you need it ever, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Just side note, it's in our backyard here.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's right.
if you need it. But nonetheless, we made the huge mistake of putting a warehouse in California, Fullerton, California, hugely problematic during the epidemic or the pandemic, whatever you want to call it. Made it really hard to operate. Fortunately, Ladders got through the exemption. If I was to do it again, no way.
Yeah.
No way. As fast as we can get out of California, I'm out. And it's not just the politics. It's just a joke right now, right? It's really hard to do business there. Obviously, the port's really hard to work with. But man, that was a huge mistake. Expensive as all get out.
Yep.
And you can't find people.
You make a lot of those though.
Don't you love them?
Yeah,
huh?
That's how you get to where you're at. It's like you're just like, hey, that's the learning experience.
Don't do it. Yeah. So tell me really quick, for people that aren't familiar with Hydrojug and what your mission is, what you're doing. Now, I listened to your honest e-commerce yesterday. It was really good. He did a great job, by the way, and you did a good job in your answers. But if you don't mind, for the people that haven't heard, just your quick intro.
Yeah.
And what we're going to focus on today is more of the losses and the hardships that we've gone through to get to where you're at, right? That's really where I think we find these levels of discouragement where we feel like it's time to quit. And what it takes to get through those quit moments. And I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of, everybody says it, it's kind of cliche, like just never quit, like that sign right behind you.
Yeah.
But truly there's a point where you feel like, I am not doing this tomorrow.
Yeah.
It is really hard. So do you mind just give us a quick intro and then we'll go into some questions.
Yeah, so just a little background on Hydrojug. It started off just as a half-gallon water bottle, we were trying to replace the milk jugs that people carry around at the gym and really solve those problems. Like, first of all, they're single-use plastic. You're only supposed to use it once. And then like the Arrowhead ones, like they don't have great handles, or they leaked, or the opening wasn't big. They're not dishwasher safe. Like all these things were like, hey, there might be room for this. Like, let's get this in the hands of these people that are training really hard and trying to go to the next level. But it evolved really quick. It was like, so we thought it was going to be for kind of those like gym guys, but women picked it up.
My wife carries it.
Yeah.
She has the one on the shoulder. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So like it moved really quick that way. And we're like, okay, now we have to do more kind of female oriented like colors and marketing and that kind of stuff. And then, so the purpose evolved too. In the beginning, it was like, hey, let's sell as many of these bottles as we can. And then it evolved to like, let's come out with products that help people, because we'd go to expos and they would be like, is it insulated? Does it have a straw? These things, and that kind of put us onto our next products. And
does
then,
it sweat?
Yeah. So
that drives me crazy.
I know.
Wood desk.
That's the stainless steel is great.
Yeah.
Because like you put ice in it and you're just like, this is nuts. Like, but anyways, so I get that. But so then it became about that, and now it's more about, I look at like internal and external. Like I really do. If we inspire people like through our content, even if they're not our customers, if we inspire them like with the athletes that we sponsor, if we help them want to live like a healthier lifestyle, and then internally, like if I can provide good jobs for people and help them want to become the best versions of themselves, I think that's what like our goal at Hydrojug is. Like we want to do everything we can, put processes in place, release products that really inspire people and help people become the best versions of themselves.
I love it. Really good mission statement.
Yeah.
In a small little paragraph that tells a life story and not on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell you live it.
Yep.
That's amazing, right? So the hard part, you're 22 or 24 when you start Hydrojug, right? You're 29 right now. You're not gonna be able to stay under 30 for very much longer.
I know. I'm really trying to get on that 30 under 30.
Well, you will. I have no doubt in my mind. If you haven't, you deserve it. So here we go. You're 24 years old. For those, we're just kind of reach deep into how do we start? Like I come from a fire background with no dollars. You're 24 years old. Don't assuming. Your dad worked with me as a firefighter at Weaver Fire. He was my captain. And then he owned a Subway franchise and some landscaping stuff. So he's working nonstop. I'm assuming you can't say, hey, Dad, I need to borrow $100,000. Very easy.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So when you come up with the concepts, I heard on that last podcast you did where you discussed that you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and you knew you didn't want to have a store, but you wanted a product line, right? And so here we sit, the big hurdles that most of us come into, and you sit with the firefighters all day, and this is what they stop themselves from really trying to reach at. And I use firefighters simply because that's who I sat with, and we all had no money. So we hear the same story. You're on calls or working 24 hours a day, talking about what you wish you could do, but we created our own hurdles of why we can't do it. Right. And at 24 years old, you have about every hurdle, but you have a huge dream ahead of you and some vision that you don't let hurdles get in the way.
Yeah.
So how did you do it?
That's really hard, like to say like one thing, but I think, so when I look back on it, I did it the worst way possible. Like I was newly married. I had a mortgage. I had a full-time job. I was going to school full-time. My wife was pregnant.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So every worst scenario.
Everything. Like I feel like I had every reason to like be like, I shouldn't do this, or I don't want to do this. And it's interesting too, because so you have all those hurdles, like life hurdles. And then you have hurdles from people that really care and love you. Like I remember people being like, hey, is there any way you could import less, or like spend less money, or like, how do you do this more like risk averse?
From the banks or from your family members?
Family members and friends.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's a really weird like mental thing, because you're like,
they want you to slow down.
Yeah. I want like encouragement, but they do it out of a place of love. It's not out of a place of like, jealousy. They're trying to, or discouragement. Right. But yeah, you have those hurdles, like in your relationships, a ton of mental hurdles. There's all these things that are stacked up against you. And for me, I think the biggest thing is like, I didn't have a choice. Like I just had to push through them. Like I knew what I wanted, And like I said, I had a mortgage. I had like a baby on the way.
Obligations,
yeah,
responsibility.
and I just knew. Like I was just like, I have to figure something out. And I didn't get to choose. Like I didn't choose, I guess I did, but like whether I just could go to school, like that's a luxury. Like if you're a full-time student, like
that's a pretty good luxury.
That's a luxury. Like, and
you don't
I was
have
like,
to worry about.
But I wanted to be like, I had certain goals, and I was just like, this is the like my reality and like what I chose. So
starting out, 24 years old, you got a mortgage, wife, pregnant wife,
right?
Just trying to get out, trying to rub two nickels together and put food on the table, full-time job. Now you say, hey, this is the problem I want to solve, which is, the gallon milk jug, we'll call it, and getting something easier accessible for athletes. Now you say, hey, I have to come up with a design. Where did you go? What did you do? Like, how does that process start?
I think I talked about this too in another podcast. Like I looked up, so I had a shaker cup and I had an Arrowhead water bottle, and I was like, I know what I want to do. Like I want to combine these. So I went to a 3D print shop, and it was in the BDO. And then those bottles sat in the back of my Civic for probably a month, because it's always like, it feels like there's something like that you have to break through to get yourself just to take that first step and that leap. And you get better at it.
Oh yeah.
As you go. But that was my first step.
Years ago, one of my first patents that I have is called Heat Wave Mug. And it was a mug that I sat down and we created. It was a self-heating mug using just a chemical reaction. It was an edible chemical. So it was FDA approved, but it reacts in itself and causes the mug to get up to, the problem is it only get up to 128 degrees, which isn't quite hot enough for that nice hot cup of coffee, but it's not cold. It doesn't have that uncomfortable lukewarm. It's about 7 degrees shy of where people like their coffee. That was a bummer. For one, and then for two, obviously, I had some leak issues. Like it reset itself. It was unlimited use.
Yeah.
But when I was sitting at Metropolis Design, the guy sitting next to me was Blender Bottle with his design of Blender Bottle.
Yeah.
We were sitting together in the waiting room, and I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Who is ever
how's this guy gonna
use it? Yeah. I'm like, that is dumb. I'm like, what's your price point? He's like, I think we can get like $14.99, $19.99. In my heart, I mean, bless his heart, I shouldn't say that in an arrogant way, but I'm like, who's gonna need that? I'll never have a little spring ball in my cup. But I saw the 3D versions of the cup that they'd made, and then the drawings, and I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's funny how far off I was, because that thing's just a monster now.
That's another hurdle you'll get in the beginning.
Right.
People will be like, what? Like, what are you trying to do? Yeah, like that's a ton of water, Like,
who's going to carry that around?
Yeah, like you'll hear that all the time.
Think about a door in firefighters, a freaking bookcase door. Are you stupid? No one wants a Murphy door. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And it depends who you're talking to.
Right.
But.
And so never let that get in the way. So you come up, you get a 3D printer. How much?
So I actually didn't 3D print it.
You didn't.
So they said, they kind of put me in the right direction. They were like, look, like we could 3D print this, but your best bet is like getting a engineer to get this like drawn up for you and designed. And I remember I called some blow molding factories too, and the guys were like, yeah, it's $100,000 in tooling. Like you're like just to get started. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So it just kind of
so be careful who you reach out for. That's number one.
Yeah.
Like, okay, get some good advice. Don't take the first person that says, hey, it's $100,000. There is alternatives.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, and like early on, and I mean forever, it's so important to consume information. So 100%. Like when you whether it's reading, when you're on the treadmill, when you're driving, when you are like networking and speaking with people, consume information, get as much information as you can, find out like who they source with, how they found them, like just consume as much information as you can. And
don't be afraid to ask questions, because people will share it.
They love it.
They love to share.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah. Like people ask me and I'm just like, yeah, I'll tell you everything, like and people like to help too.
It's a really powerful word, right? Help. It's hard if I ever came up to you and like help in distress, you would drop everything you're doing to do whatever it is that I need help with.
Yeah.
And I think in general, the human race, that is their answer. You can be aggressive and you can be wanting to fight, but if that person you're trying to fight wants to say, all of a sudden says, I need your help, then you're going to say, oh, I didn't know you need help. What do you need? I think that's the same way in business. People ask, how did you get such a strong board? We have a really powerful board in our office. I just asked.
Yeah.
I just said, hey, will you be on our board?
Well, and I think it takes a little bit of being like vulnerable too. Like a lot of people, you're like, I don't want help. Like I can figure this out. or like, I'll get through this, whatever. But you have to be like vulnerable and be like, I don't know. Like, I don't know everything. And like, I have to ask, and I need help.
That took me a long time. I'm surprised you're there at 29. Just to say I don't know everything was such, but it was a dynamic mind shift. As soon as you realized I don't know, I loved it so much I wanted to tattoo it on my forehead.
Yeah.
Because once you let those walls down of, hey, I know, and listen, I know you're telling me this. The problem is people say they want to know. They act like they don't know. But in their head, they're trying to figure out ways to discredit your answer. And I'm okay with it. I don't really care whether you take the information or not. I'll just share with you my experience. You know, when people ask me, I'm happy to share it. And I hope they use whatever pieces that matter to them, right? And I think you did a really good way of putting it the other day. What works for some people doesn't work for everyone. But I'm happy to share with what worked and didn't work for me. Right? But the issue is you can see when people aren't listening to you. And they're like, hey, so how did you do this? And they're like, that sounds really dumb. Right. Okay, fine. But when you, again, to your start, you didn't 3D print it, but you reached out to White Cloud. And that was about how much, just in roundabout numbers, to get that little bit of advice.
I mean, I didn't spend any money with them.
Because just asked for a little help.
Yeah. And they just referred me to like my next step.
Okay.
Like where do I need to go to do this?
And your next step was engineer. Right.
Yep.
So they helped you design the bottle and drawing and told you how proper ways to manufacture that bottle would be. At this stage, have you thought about patents yet?
No.
Back then? No. Yep. Shouldn't.
Can't afford them.
Can't afford them yet, right? So we go in, engineer says, okay, this is what it is. This is what it should be made of. Concept one. Then what's the next step after that?
So that's when I discovered, so I knew about Alibaba. And I had friends that had used Alibaba, and I talked to them about it. Like I had a buddy that sourced like headphones. And he was like, yeah, so a lot of them came packaged with one headphone, and like some of them weren't packaged at all. You know,
we spray painted them, changed the brand. Like,
early days Alibaba. And so they had a cool feature that you could submit like RFQs. Like you'd submit it to one, and then they're like, do you want to submit this to like 500 other like similar factories? And so I learned everything about Alibaba. I read up on like trade companies and working direct with the manufacturer agents, like the amount of information is endless right now with the internet. Like you can find everything. And that's another really important piece to like always consume information. I think it's really important to know and understand how to filter it too. Because there's a lot of noise.
There's a lot of noise, and find what's relevant to you right now. Don't just absorb stuff that's not relevant, which I found myself doing before too. And then I'm out in a tangent and questioning what I'm really doing. Or if I want to, I'm really squirrely, so all of a sudden I want to start something else that has nothing to do with my business. I'm like, oh, I'll do that one too, right?
I think most entrepreneurs are like that.
ADD-ish, do you have that problem too?
I feel like I am. Either ADD or OCD, one of the...
Probably both.
I haven't talked to a psychologist yet. I probably need to.
No, they'll just discourage it. Just keep going. You know, like Dory, right? Just keep swimming and don't even pay attention to the noise around us. But so we go from there. Your first placement, this is a scary part. We're like, I'm going to order something from a foreign country with a design that I'm giving away.
So the thing about the design that ended up being really nice is the bottom half of the bottle, so not the lid but the bottle itself, was OEM. So I didn't even have to pay for tooling. It
was already ready. Okay. So tooling costs realistically for the top half, right? Did you have to top half like the lid and all that? And you're looking...
I want to say it was like $3,000.
Cheap.
Yeah.
So that's not the end of the world.
And I was with so in the beginning we went to China and visited, and that...
Where at in China?
So we went to Shenzhen, Guangdong, and Xiamen.
It's exactly where I went for my mug. Shenzhen, Guangdong.
Yep.
That's where I went to those two places with the Romney family.
Oh, yeah.
It was interesting. Yeah, but that's where we went.
How many times have you been?
Well, the ladder factory's in Suzhou. So, I don't know, half a dozen.
So you've gone quite a bit.
Yeah, it's now, right? But I like it there. I wouldn't want to live there all the time, but I like it.
I was surprised.
Right? Yeah. Shenzhen's awesome. Amazing, right? Yeah. Mind-blowing how many apartments.
Yeah.
And then these giant towers with laundry hanging in the window.
Yep.
You're like, what in the world's going on here?
It's a different world, but it wasn't like what I thought. Yeah, we flew into Hong Kong.
Yeah, mind-blowing city, huh?
It's cool.
It is. They have everything we have.
And I really like everyone that I interacted with. Like, it's just great. Like, the people are great.
They are.
So
not quite what we think of. So I love all my people, all my acquaintances, all my partners in China.
Very hard workers.
And willing to take
family oriented.
Very. Yep. Ladder factory that makes all our competitors' ladders in the same factory as well.
Yeah.
Right. Which is funny. We're really brand oriented. I only buy Werner. I only buy whatever. And you're like, oh, that's
the United
cute.
States.
Because this guy's really
trained.
building all of them.
Yeah.
He's just changing stickers. Like, here comes a Murphy ladder. Here comes a Werner. Right. And they're just throwing stickers on it. But whatever. I mean, we just don't, we like to be blind to brand. Here it's like, oh, these guys do their stuff so much better. That's why I only buy this brand. Yep. And it's pretty silly in retro. But so now you're out, your initial investment to get your first tool, you're throwing $3,000 to a company you don't know.
Yeah. So
tooling.
all this was scary.
You're puckered.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I remember going to America First. It was the one in a grocery store, like right by my house in Ogden.
Okay.
And I have I'm sending that first bank wire, and the branch manager comes out and he looks at me. He's like, "Have you done this before?" And I was like, "Absolutely not."
Nope.
I have not done.
Do you know who
this.
you're sending this to? Nope.
Yeah.
Never met him.
Yeah. So that's how it was.
And your first wire was how much you care?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but we had to pay for that tooling, and then we had a deposit payment, and then we had a balance payment, and we spent every penny. So I want to say this is actually, and I didn't share this early on, but I have shared it. We started the business. It was $13,000 to $15,000 total.
Good.
So when people have that hurdle of money, that's not a hurdle. If you're just and I get it, it's appealing. You're like, I want to start a brand and have a full product line. I want to have people sponsored. I want to have.
You don't need $1 million.
You don't need $1 million.
So you know what frustrates me is the SaaS world right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's great that they're making that kind of money. But what I see when you see these disgusting amount of injections, like 150 million, and I might be naive to it, but you and I come from the same fold, right? The same cut. We don't have the money to throw 100 million, nor the resources, or more than likely in that stage in our career, the connections to have someone that has that kind of money, right? So what I find in the SaaS world, it seems like they try to solve their problems with corking the leaky hole with more capital, right? But when you get to really scrappy, you made $13,000, $15,000 turn into an 8-figure company last year.
Yeah, it was funny. Jake said, I forgot about this too, because I remember texting him and being like, "Hey, how much money do you have? Transfer it to this account." All of it.
All of it. Give me everything you own.
And he was getting ready to propose.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, so that was his ring money. He delayed the ring money. But
you can't tell everybody that.
I know.
But you did.
He did. Well, he did. He's the one that
good
disclosed it. So he already did it. But it's funny. It's interesting. That was all of our money.
All of it. And then here you go, send it to a foreign
I said,
country.
I had a mortgage. My wife's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. What about our house payment? You're like, believe me.
Yeah.
I'll work some overtime. I can go help my dad in the sprinklers.
Yeah.
Go work at the Subway.
Well, and in my mind, I was just like, worst case scenario, I will go door to door and sell these things.
Right. So your first order was for how many?
3,000 units.
Ooh, you believed in yourself.
So I wanted 3 colors, and the MOQ was 1,000 a color
per color. 3,000's a lot.
Yeah. So it didn't fill my dad's shed. If you've seen my dad's detached garage,
it didn't fill it.
It didn't fill it. I want to say it was 12 pallets is all. But the next order, so we had tons of quality problems, more hurdles, ones you wouldn't believe.
So discouraged.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would be at work at my full-time job, and Jake would call me and be like, "Dude, you won't believe it, this," Then I'd have to take leave, go there, and so our first problem was that it leaked, and then on the flip cap would break super easy. So we had a whole process where we filled up every one of those jugs and leak tested them, and before we sent them out, because the customer was just
oh sure,
you don't want to discourage them on their first purchase.
1 star.
Yep.
Right out the gate.
Yep. So then we got new seals, and my dad would take them to the fire station and
put them in.
And they would replace the seals for us, and they were bigger seals. And then those bigger seals started creating so much pressure that it would actually rip the seam on the lid. So then we had that problem. We sunk all of our money back into another order, and this time we ordered a full container. The first time it was LCL.
How much is in a full container?
Just under 10,000.
Okay, so a big jump.
And we did colors. So
and
we
you
did
sold all 3,000.
Yeah.
And how did you go about selling it the first 3,000?
We did everything. So in the beginning, it was just straight influencer marketing, So like, I would just find up and coming kind of people that would work on commission.
Can I ask you, so we've never done influencer marketing. I shouldn't say never. We did one Tools by Design, I think, on the latter side. I think we're missing a huge element. But to be honest with you and just kind of fully exposed, I had no idea how to do the influencer marketing.
Yeah.
What would you recommend to someone that hasn't done influencer marketing? How do you reach out being a new brand?
Yeah.
To have them put their brand on your brand that's brand new. Convince them that you're going to have integrity and pay them for one, and for two, that they're producing or they're going to be pitching a product that they believe in, right? That's going to work.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Well, I mean, to answer your question, the first thing I would do is find someone that did it and ask for help, like you said.
Okay, right.
That's going to be the easiest way. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of trial and error. But for us, fitness is a huge
portion of your business
niche. Well, and a huge niche on social.
Okay.
Everyone wants to be a fitness model. So there was a huge pool. We were early too.
Yeah.
Agencies weren't around, which they are now, and it's a pain. But I would just find, so I had some tools, like I used a tool called IG Blade, and it would show me people's daily follower growth. And I would find people in like that 10 to 30,000 follower range, which I mean, that's a pretty big account.
Sure.
And, but back in the day, like big brands weren't reaching out to these people. So I would reach out to them and I could see they were trending by their daily follower growth. And I would say, hey, like, will you work with us? You can get free product. I'll pay you 10% commission.
Oh, that's the next question. So you pay 10% commission.
Yeah.
So everyone here, in my opinion, 10% is cheap.
Yeah.
Right. So let's look at it.
It's commission. It's
cheap.
So
right?
cheap.
When you think about a big box retailer, and this is something you guys need to think about, a big box retailer is going to want 30 to 50% on the average, and sometimes more. And the other thing you guys need to be aware of is on a big box retailer, they have things you need to consider: RDC fees, so which is regional distribution center fees, MET fees, which is some slang that Home Depot is using. So merchandise execution team, the people that are actually putting the stuff on the shelf.
Yeah.
And some of these like RDC fees can be anywhere from 6 to 12, 15% of their ticket order. That's Depot. Ladders are 12% RDC. Crazy.
Just starts eating.
So you got 12. So you say, okay, I'm going to give you 30% off. Well, then all of a sudden you have a 12% RDC fee. And then you have a 2.5% MET fee. And then you have a return fee. And then you have all these fees that come in. And next thing you know, your 30% is 60%.
Yeah.
So they take all your margin. Yeah. So when you think about influencer marketing and you say, hey, I don't want to pay much more than 5 or 10%, 10% is cheap.
Yep.
And for the influencer, it's a lot of money. It's a great commission. It's better than you're going to find at any other job. A standard.
Most of them made more money than me for the first 4 years of the business.
You should, as they should, because they're really helping you do that platform. But at 5% is a good commission when it comes to being an employer. 2%, 3% is what we pay our reps, right? But they have a compounding effect. The other side, when it says 10%, that's a big number for the reps. So I believe that number you're using, I would have been like, when you first said it, I was thinking more in the 5 to 7 range. But 10, that's an honorable one for you guys, and for the influencer, that's to me, and I may be wrong because I'm not an influencer, but at the same time, that's pretty respectable.
Yeah.
It's not embarrassing to say, hey, I'll pay you 10%.
Yeah, and I think some companies go up even higher.
Do they?
Because they understand, like, from your point of view, they're like, if I was doing this at Home Depot, I mean, I'll go all the way up to 30%.
Yeah, or more.
So, yeah.
40, 50. Yeah. Right. So you go from there, you've got your influencer marketing, and then you reached out, just not being afraid to talk to people, not being afraid to send emails, absolutely not afraid of rejection, because that's what you're going to get 99% of the time, right? Until all of a sudden they want to be part of your bandwagon. Now, when you call someone, they answer the phone, right? Which is a weird dynamic. All of a sudden you're like, hey, it's you. Oh yeah, hold on, we'll stop the meeting and we'll get you on the phone.
Yeah.
Which isn't where we were a little while ago, right? Yeah. So we go from influencer marketing, you start selling 3,000 gone, now you have 10, right?
And we have more colors.
Colors.
We really got into, like, I think we probably did 5 colors.
So you don't have to tell us your pricing strategy, but when you sat down to figure out your pricing, when I went to figure out doors, I had no idea how to do it.
I was gonna say dartboard.
It's just dartboard, right? And every banker is gonna hate me for that answer, but I'm like, look, here's the deal. I know I can't lose. Our first store started at $3,000.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I know I can't lose at 3,000. So let's start there. Right. And I do a little bit different pricing strategy now because we know what it costs, our throughput rate and our daily SGA costs and everything else that happens. But at the first, Don't overthink it. Just make sure that you have enough money to pay for the product, buy more product, pay your influencer, pay for returns. So just price enough in there, and don't be afraid to make some money. But at the same time, don't be so expensive where you can't sell anything.
Yeah.
So now, just to give you a thing, when we first started, we did 3,000. Well, we're launching a new door now, which is a low-grade melamine type product. This isn't melamine, but it's a textured melamine. You're seeing all these products, which is a lower, we call it an economy series door. And it's really not that much cheaper to build. So we started on the low side, like $500.
Yeah.
Right. And then we tested to see what's that doing. And then we said, okay, look, it became 50 and then rapidly 60% of our volume, which we don't want it to be that much of the volume. It needs to be a reflective component of the percentage of offerings, right?
Yeah.
So then we start stepping up the price.
Yep.
But if you go too high out the gate, I don't think it gives you a realistic view of what consumers are wanting, because it may be that, right? We can say, hey, look, is it pricing, or is it the material? So then we'll start escalating the price until all of a sudden we see, okay, well, it was pricing and not the material demand or color in your world, right? Yep. Color or whatever that styling is. So now when we start to see a taper, we're going to say, okay, once it's in check of the percentage of product sales, right? And it's inside our average order value. I mean, that we focus huge on that. Ours is $1,680. That's our average order value today. We focus on that heavy because then it gives you the answer on what we can spend in marketing and so on, like customer acquisition costs, like you were talking about.
Yep.
So pricing is a science that we spend a lot of time early to stress. That took a lot of my time, consuming wise, stress wise. Did that bother you?
I think mine's a little more simple than yours.
But were you nervous about it?
So mine, I mostly just looked at blender bottle, even though they didn't have like a exact type. I was like, well, if someone's paying like X amount for like a 16 ounce, they'll probably pay. It was more like just kind of a logic thing.
Got it.
And like kind of what I would pay. So.
And that's always a good check, right? What would you be willing to pay?
Yeah, it was just kind of a logic thing, and super lucky that it worked out. But we are kind of like you, I guess we are kind of coming out with new lines. And that has been a lot more scientific, where we're looking at like our pricing, how fast we think we'll turn them, what percentage we want them to be. All those things you mentioned do go into it on these like newer lines. But initially it was just like, I think this sounds good.
Right?
Yeah.
So your failures, 3,000 at the gate, had some issues. And then you have this 10,000. And that was paid for through your cash sales of your previous orders.
Yep.
Right, so you didn't have to go out and get capital, 100% back in. You're
No
not
salaries,
paying paychecks.
Nothing.
Not for years, right? It takes a while, which is okay, and you just have to be willing to do that when you start.
Yeah, and I think it's just like you. Like, how long did you work at the fire station?
5 years after.
And when you had a successful business already.
$5 million a year when I left fire.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Yeah, and people don't get that either. And social has a big piece to do with that. They're like, hey, I made $1 million. Like, I should be driving a Ferrari. You know,
yeah,
just like all these other guys. Yeah. So, and you have to have that long term like vision.
It's not even when I was at 5 million. That was I called it like fire was that aluminum foil emergency blanket that it did offer health care and a little teeny paycheck, and it made sure that I was safe and my family had food on the table and a house payment.
Yeah.
And sometimes I had to borrow that little bit of money, that under $800 every 2 weeks to pay Google. Yep. Right. There was a day where I almost lost it with American Express. Like I was on that last final day, and we just by chance aired on the DIY Network the night before, and got $9,000 in sales that night.
Yeah.
Woke up with Amex saying we're closing your account, and I said no, I got it.
Yeah.
So we stayed alive, and it was saved because of DIY Network.
And think if you were paying yourself a salary.
Yeah, you would have been way further behind, right? So you just have to leave it. And I think I'll give you an example of my brother-in-law, and I love him to death. But he started a cookie franchise. Well, he bought into a cookie franchise, and we were sitting down at a family dinner, and he's naive, of course. He's about 5 years younger than I am when it comes to business, and you'll love this comment, I think, Hayden. He goes, "Man, it's going to be so nice to own my business. I am so sick of being poor. It's going to be nice to be rich." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Another 2 months of poverty, and I'm in." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "We're about 45 to 60 days from opening. We're almost done with our remodel." And I'm like, "So you think in 60 days you're gonna be rich?" He goes, "Dude, yeah." Like we're going to be doing $1,000 to $1,500 a day in cookies.
Yeah.
And he goes, and then, I mean, I'm only going to be into the cookies like $250 that day.
Yeah.
Right.
High level. That sounds good.
It sounds really good. But then all of a sudden he realizes it's really $2,000 a day to run the operation.
Yep.
Right. And so they went through some major struggles, and there was a few rules. I said, Brian, I don't care what you do. Bryant, I shouldn't say Brian. I said, here's the things you can't do. Sales tax has to go into its own bank account. You can't borrow from sales tax ever, because they don't check it. You're obligated to pay it. They have ways to know if you did or not. But all of a sudden, you're going to see that you've gone into hock with the sales tax commission, and then they're going to charge a 25% penalty, and they're going to be the easiest ones to borrow from and the hardest ones to get out of.
Yep.
The next one, don't do your own payroll ever. For me, I got into a huge problem because I did my own payroll, borrowed the payroll taxes to pay some bad bills, got into hock, owed $55,000 in penalties and fines. Right? Had to put it into a mortgage and all that stuff just to get cleaned out. So now I don't do my own payroll, even though now we're running just, 75 people, I think is what we have. And so, payroll's in that world.
Yeah.
Even though we have our own accounting people that could probably run it, I just don't want the liability. We do it through ESG. I think it's Paychecks now, but it's been really nice to not have to worry about it. The taxes are paid. It's their employees. We work there, and I don't have to. That's one less loss of sleep.
Yeah, one less decision to make.
One less decision to make. Same with payroll taxes or sales taxes. So the first things he does, what does he do?
Yeah.
So guess how much he's into hock? $16,000.
Hawk?
Hock means he owes some bad money to the sales with interest and penalties to the sales tax commission and payroll.
Yeah.
I'm like, Brian, come on, man.
Income tax is tough too. I didn't know how bad income tax was. Like, it's just crazy.
And it's just going to get worse. And they think it's okay. It's like, look, you do the same things. I really respect the fact you guys have gyms and basketball hoops, and I get it. Like, we don't have that kind of stuff. I understand what the mentality and thinking is behind. I think it's great. If we had the space to really do it, I'd probably entertain it more. But we try to offer 2 weeks paid vacation, week of sick, week of holiday. We have tuition reimbursement 100% if you maintain grade levels. We do 10% of our net profits back to all of our employees equally across the board every quarter, which has been a pretty big win for all of them for the last, we haven't missed a quarter payment in 7 quarters. So we've been bonusing out.
Nice.
So, and they get $2,500 to $4,000 on a bonus check.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good for that hourly rate. You figure it's another $250 to $5 an hour.
Yeah.
Right. So we try to give back as much as we can. And I'm the same as you. I'm happy to have everybody, rising waters raise all ships. Right. And I think it's an important key aspect to having a culture that wants to see your brand succeed.
Yeah.
By looking at yourself saying, I want to show up in a Ferrari, it's really short-sighted. So, just like anything else, if we spend our time focusing on everyone else, they'll help us raise. If we're focusing on what we're going to be like, then you just don't have the support internal.
Yeah, and I've talked about that too a little bit. Like, I was very fortunate. Like, I had great parents. And
the coolest.
Yeah, and they taught me, like, great things, and we had family businesses. So, like, that was kind of second nature to me. Like, treat your people, like, really well. Treat them like family. And your business, like, that's how, like, the family survives. And everyone's bought in and works and shares in the success. And, like, those things were kind of just, me and Jake were like, yeah, like 100%. Like,
you're 3 brothers, right? In your business.
Yeah.
How's that?
It's great. I love it. Yeah. A lot of people, like, early on would say stuff like, yo, are you sure you want to do a business with your family? Family's so hard. For me, it's easier because I have a really good relationship with Jake and Nate. Like, we have really good relationships where, like, we have a little bit of, like, an Italian side in us where we can scream at each other.
And then go to lunch. Rare.
Which with, like, a partner, I'd have a hard time being 100% like transparent with, like, how I felt and how I think decisions should be made. And you kind of get into, like, a little bit of politicking where, like, I just like it to be cut and dry. So that's really helped me. And at the end of the day, we know, like, we're like, hey, at the end of the day, it's about business. It's not about family. It's not about, like, personal things. It's not about, like, and if someone yells at me or thinks I'm wrong, like, they're trying to make the business better. So, like, when we do I think in a lot of families, like, they go into business and then one fight and then they can't do Sunday dinner anymore. And that would suck.
My mom's side.
Yeah, that would suck. But
20
like,
years.
We're just like, we know, we kind of understand big picture, and
Well, that's from your
get through
dad,
anything. Yeah.
right? Your dad is just amazing at that too. Maybe your mom. I don't know your mom. I just know your dad. But your dad, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, not even for a half a second.
Yeah,
that you've been able to have that influence in your life.
He's really good at relationships.
He is, and I think also when you said, it's really when it registered for me when you said, look, I understand that when we fight, it's really for the best argument for the business. I think we forget that. Mm-hmm. We're so, I guess, dedicated on being right. Yeah. Just like everything else. Again, as soon as we admit we don't know, but we're so just insistent. No, I'm right. If you just spend a few minutes, there's a reason that the other person thinks they're right too.
Yeah.
You may feel like you're right, but at least listen to that side and see why they feel that way.
It's funny, like a lot of people, they think like, oh, I want to be my own boss, or I want to be rich or whatever, and I want to start a business. I think the most rewarding piece of business is how it shapes you as a person. Like it's nuts because you're thrown into situations and you just have to figure it out. Like I had to figure out how to I kind of have that like more abrasive personality where I want to be right. And Jake's more like my dad. Mm-hmm. And we had to learn. Like I had to learn how to communicate with Jake and and that helped me in my marriage and other relationships. So like you get forced into crazy problems that you would never imagine you'd be in situations, and you come out better.
Right.
And I'm like, when would I ever have thought of this?
But when do you think you come out better? It's when you finally realize that you were wrong in the first place. Yeah. Otherwise, you didn't grow at all.
Yeah. You would always just be like, well, I don't have to improve.
I was right. Yeah. And then you just sit there. And I think that holds us back way more than just sometimes sitting back and admitting we're wrong. Yeah. Even if it's just that little piece that we were wrong about. And being vocal about being wrong is okay too.
There's a really good book. It's called Think Again. And it really is like, he talks about why do we have things that we hold so personally, like thoughts. Mm-hmm. And because things change over time.
Yep. We evolve.
And to hold on to something is going to hold you back. Like to not ever reconsider why another, and we see this in politics. We see this in sports. Like people are so emotionally attached to their opinions where they won't even consider why another person is thinking that way. And it's like, you have to be self-aware enough to consider that, and you'll grow as a person and understand the world and how things work a lot quicker and faster. But I think that's huge. Like the Think Again principles in that book are great.
I'm gonna have to read it. I haven't read it.
And I mean, like, reading takes time. Audible.
Guess where I'm going today after we get done.
Where you headed?
The whole crew's waiting for me to do a drive to New York City.
You guys are driving?
Driving, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
so we're doing just for everybody, Fox and Friends Monday morning, a whole segment on Murphy Door and Murphy Ladder. So we're taking up to build a booth on the plaza again. So I got some good connections if you ever want to visit with those guys. We've been there a few times. It's our third deal on Fox and Friends, but we're driving.
Dang.
So here's the deal. My wife's like, why don't you just fly there and just meet with them? I'm like, you know what? There's no way I'm going to miss out on the opportunity to sit with four of my most, favorite people to be with for 30 hours in a car just so we can banter and I can hear their life problems. They can hear mine. I can hear their work struggles. There's just no way more to sit in a truck with really shitty weather across 80 if it's open when we leave. We're going to go 70 the other way if we're not. Yeah. But can you imagine? I just don't want to miss the opportunity. Now, I am flying home. I'm like, I'll ride with you there. High five out, right? I'm gonna fly home on the way back. But I just have Mondays is full, so I have to do the thing and then be out. But nonetheless, I think just that time to sit there and listen and to realize all the things that I feel like are going right. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping to hear of all the things that are going wrong.
Yeah.
And I want to just expose myself in the sense of the disappointment in people and letting them know what they're disappointed with me. Because, we live in our own little world of doing this and going to another meeting and forgetting about the day-to-day operations of our men. And when we first started Murphy Door and Murphy Ladder guerrilla level. Like we visited 1,000 stores personally, 1,000 stores, right? That's a lot when you start going around the country. But we did it as a team. We'd sit in a car. We'd have 4 dudes in a hotel room. And then you'd share concepts and ideas. And that's why we have all our desks in a circle.
Yeah.
Like it's hard when everybody goes in their own little zone. It's hard to grow as a team.
Yep.
And I mean, the same reason for a basketball hoop and so forth in your office. But I think we miss out by closing our minds. I don't have a desk office. I have that little lift desk. But by closing your door, and I know that everybody says I have an open door policy. By closing your door, even if it's open, right, you miss out.
Yeah.
And I think being involved in the day-to-day helps you grow it.
Yeah, no, there's this saying like knowing what you don't know is super important. And that's like self-awareness, right? So
that makes a lot of sense. When I got my EMT, it was in 93, and I got my paramedic in 2010. I thought every time a rescue would show up, I'm like, I can do exactly what they're doing. But after spending the time you go through paramedic school, I didn't realize all the things I didn't know and the reasons why they did the things they did. Now we can do the steps of like, oh, I'll do an IV or I'll push this medication because it's in our algorithm. But then all of a sudden you go through paramedic school and they give you the reasons of why you're doing all those and then what to look for.
Yeah.
Like your response, positive or negative, and then how to change courses. Like before you're really algorithmic, which I think employees work within an algorithm that's like, do this, if this, then that, right? But then when you're a CEO, then you're more on a high level. Like if this happens, there is if this, then that's, but we change algorithms. Like, oh, wait a second, here's plan B, here's plan C, here's plan F, right? We just keep failing all the way down, and then but we're willing to recognize failure, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah.
And then change that algorithm. But
no, it's like you said, you want to ride in the car and figure out like what you don't know.
That's exactly right.
What
that's
don't
exactly
I know? What's going on? You know? So I think that's super important from like an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Every chance you can, right? And that's not every day you can jump in a car for 4 days. There's certain days of the week that it just won't work.
Yeah.
But right now, I think it's a good opportunity for us to do it. So I want to go back to where you're at. You got 10,000 coming in. What that lands a whole container to your dad's barn again?
Yeah.
Joe's happy. Right?
Yeah. So the trucker calls me. I'm at work. I have to take leave. Me and Jake are unloading these things. Freezing cold winter, and they're live unload. So they're like, you got an hour. So we're just chucking these boxes. I remember we had like a picnic table.
Because you didn't have money to pay the truckers extra holdover.
Oh no way, we're paying that. So we have like a picnic table stood up against the container.
Okay.
And I'm just chucking them. Sliding them down. And we're not even putting them in the warehouse or in the garage. And we're just letting them fall out everywhere. And we get them all in there. So excited to see the colors. Open them up. The lid has blown off of the bottle. Like the threads are still on the bottle, but the top of the lid has blown off. And there's a few that aren't. And you're opening them and it's sounding like pop cans. So that seal, that upgraded seal we put in there,
forced them to strip the thread.
Well, it made them airtight, and the change in elevation blew them.
Oh no!
Yeah. So yeah, they had to ship us all new lids, and now we're changing 10,000 lids. And this stuff didn't stop.
Fire station again.
Yeah. This stuff didn't stop. So you just every turn, and I mean, if you really took a step back and you thought about it, and you're like, that's all my money, right there. What if they don't send me new? We're lucky. They sent us all new lids. They aired them too.
Wow. So a very honest group you're working with over there, which by the way, that's mostly what I've run into. Like our mag locks, we've had orders that were $40,000 that were just bad.
Yeah.
And they changed it. I was shocked
that
they left the stuff here and sent us another batch. I don't know these people from Adam. I haven't worked with that factory at all. We've done a lot of business with them, but at the time, we were new. I was still working at the fire station, and everything was bad.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no. Right? But at the same time, you just work through it. Yeah. So that's 10,000, and now change it. What's next?
So we were just going for it. Like we were going to expos. So like I would rent a van, loaded it up, drove through the night with one of my buddies and Jake. And we would load it up, drove to California, did the expos, and
which isn't cheap, by the way. Your tables are expensive, booths are expensive.
Yeah, everything's. And this is funny when you said we didn't pay for the driver. I remember getting there and we pull up to the dock and they're like, did you pay to get unloaded,
the drayage,
or even to use the dock?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I did not pay. And they're like, okay, well you have to go to the parking lot
and wheel it in.
So we like got those like racking shelves from like, the wire ones that take forever to put together. So we assemble them in the parking lot and like tip them over, stack all of our product on them, and we're like carrying them across the road and like up the dock. We have semis honking at us. Like we're just like, I'm not paying $1,000 to like unload my booth stuff.
Nope.
So
we did that Murphy door. We framed our first booth. It was a 20 by 20, and you know how heavy our doors are, like $200 and some odd dollars. Mm-hmm. Didn't pay that either. So we get to the Las Vegas Convention Center. Yeah. They wouldn't let us on the dock, right? So you have to go to the personal unload, which includes stairs.
Yep.
Right. We carried all our walls, all our doors, and you couldn't use a 3-wheel. Anything with 2 or more wheels you can't use because that's supposed to be union based.
Yeah.
Right. Dumb rules. Yeah. So we got those little wall movers that would clamp around the wall, and we just pushed them through the deal. And they didn't like those either. I'm like, hey, it's 2 wheels, right? And they're like, yeah, I know, but it's over 50 pounds. So we had to wait and find a union boss, tip boss person that's letting us through the bay door, right? And it was, I mean, it's just guerrilla.
It's funny. And I think that's what it takes. Like kind of how we're talking, like, how do you get through these hurdles? And it's that exactly, like that mindset.
And not pay the bill. Yeah. Like, honestly, if you can't afford it, don't afford it, right? Don't put your company at hawk or at risk, I should say, just because you want to use the dock.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to carry the shelf full of product and get honked at by semis.
Yeah, we call it, we just cowboy it.
Yeah, cowboy it. You just have to cowboy it, right? And I think that's where we get weak. It's easier as we grow to just pay the problem away. But sometimes I think we do too much of that too. I think we need to cowboy through some of the stuff a little more.
Yeah, and you should think about it because it can hold you back.
I agree. There's a point. So Don Blom says it best. He says, Blom, I keep saying it wrong. I'm sorry. It's Blohm, and he's like, it's Blom like home. So anyway, Don said, look, there's a point in business where you grow from a saving money perspective to a making money perspective.
Yep.
And you just have to really weigh those out. Are we saving money, which matters, or are we going to be making money? And what does that do to our top line?
And that shift was hard. I remember that shift for me.
It is hard. And it's still hard today when you look at something like, am I being silly by just trying to say we're going to be making money, or I'm being lazy? And right.
Like we're implementing NetSuite right now.
I did that. $500,000 kick in the balls.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, and they're like, you want to integrate this is your cost. And then you get into it and they're like, oh, you want to integrate PayPal? Oh, $30,000. Yeah. Oh, you want to integrate this? Oh, $30,000. And you're just like, you're kidding me. Like, I'd rather export that in an Excel sheet.
We don't have it.
Sort it, put it back up in, like the cowboy way.
Sure.
But then I think this is kind of one of those things. Like, if I'm going to be the business I want to be,
you need it. Yeah. You need it. You need an ERP like that. But we are at the point, we still do QuickBooks, and we're running heavy 8 figures, right? Yeah. And we're still running QuickBooks, and we're still running Excel spreadsheets.
So you can do it.
It's so hard. Our financials are piecemealed. And I mean, between ladders and doors and all this, bless my CFO's heart, but we have to change. Like we're at the point now, it's just not a healthy place for all these people.
Yep.
Right. So
there is good timing on that though. Cause like you don't want to be early and you don't want to be late because it gets way more complicated.
Right.
Your implementation fees will just
skyrocket. And so that's another thing for people to be aware of. When people sell you this software SaaS, they want their software, the contract agreement up front, right? And then on top of that, don't let them buffalo you. There's an implementation fee. And usually when the software company's telling you the implementation fee, that's usually not as true as when the person that's implementing it is doing it. Who's doing your implementation?
So we work direct.
With
that was a big thing for us. Yeah, we didn't.
Sickage did ours. That was awful.
Yeah.
And I don't mind dropping that because it was a terrible. It was all full of crap. It was Sickage, and I did not.
That was a bad deal. Yeah, we wanted, that was a big thing. We were like, we're working direct with you guys or we're not doing it.
And you got them to do it. And they've been good at the implementation side.
We really, yes.
Good.
I think overall they have been. We've just had, I mean, you just have these things come up and you're just like, man, $30,000 to get this thing to talk to each other.
Yeah, the API.
But it is great because literally like you have 100% full confidence. Like when you get a return, you know what the landed cost was on that one return from 3 months ago.
Wow.
It's not an average. Like I think at the end of the day, like we're going to be able to make really good data-driven decisions.
That would be amazing to have.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
It's hard. And it's hard to get there. And you can, we've done it. Like you can get a smooth, like average landed cost on a quarterly basis. Like there's things you can do to be able to make really good decisions. And a lot of the stuff for us, like is still immaterial. like where we're just like, hey, you know what, like this is where we want to be, and when we are there, this will mean something,
right?
You know. So
can I ask you a question? So right now, our containers have gone from $2,800 a piece to $22,000.
Yeah.
Right, and then not only that, we changed some of the development of our ladders. We put the feet on them instead of leaving them off, which was a problem. Like again, coming out the gate, we've seen that.
Why'd you guys do that?
Customer feedback sucked.
Really?
That they had to put the feet on
really?
themselves.
Because I put mine on and I was like,
it's not that hard, right? No. But it actually took us from doing 1,000 ladders in a container to under 500.
Oh my gosh!
Right, so now you're $40 a ladder in shipping versus what was $280. Right. So because now you get half as much and it's 10 times as much money to ship a container.
It's funny because like when you're in the business, like, because I remember I was like, oh, I got to put the feet on, and I was like, this is because shipping.
You knew it.
You know it because you're in it, but that's crazy.
Yep. So now we're at $40. Yeah. So what does that mean in the retail side? Yeah. That means you're going to be paying $100 more for a ladder here. And I don't think the U.S. consumer understands what this is going to do and what it's going to look like come Christmas on your price of goods.
Yep.
It's not just Murphy Ladder. It's not just Hydrojug.
Most people are saying they're not even going to have stuff
for Christmas.
If people are shopping in
December. What has that done to your unit cost? Has it changed it tremendously, or has it been you've been able to slip through it pretty good?
We've kept it the same, but
you've been able to hold it.
Yeah.
Internally, but your shipping costs have gone up crazy, right?
So the inbound?
Yeah.
From
China.
Oh, they've gone up like crazy.
So how are you able to, I guess, absorbing it in margin?
I think it's scale.
So when do you feel like it can be scale, but when do you feel like it needs to be margin protected as well?
Yeah. So I think that's when it's like, hey, how is this impact? You weigh like consumer experience,
right,
versus like this is going to
erode our margin,
tank us. Like right. I can't provide an experience to the customer without my people, and like vice versa, right? Mm-hmm. So you kind of weigh those two things. Like if we can do it, I'm not going to raise my price. You know, like if it's doable and I can keep delivering and giving a good experience, like I'm going to do it.
Do you ever look at what are competitors doing and deciding if that margin's going to go up when they do it, or is that not part of your drive?
I don't, though. I pay attention to competitors, but I don't love having competitors make my decisions.
Yeah,
but I think it's good to.
You need to know.
Yeah.
So has it really eroded your margin that much to the point where?
Not a ton, and that's why I said scale. Like, I mean, our sleeves.
Yeah.
We can fit a ton of those things in a container.
Yeah, that's true. What about the jugs? I mean, you're shipping air.
That's tough. That's tough. Like I said, it's a little under 10,000 units, so you have an extra $15,000 in cost.
Yeah, $1.50 a unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that matters at points.
Yep.
Yeah, and you ship in how many containers every. So I want to say something. When I saw the numbers, even just, I'm just going to say 8 figures. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys understand what that means at a $20 bottle. It's one thing to get $10 million in ladders at $150 to $250 a piece. Mm-hmm. It's a $10 million in doors at $1,600 a piece.
Yeah,
it's a whole different game. The quantity of consumers that you have is mind blowing at 20. I mean, with all due respect, Hayden, holy crap. An 8-figure play at $20, my gosh.
Yeah, it's a big product. So like people come into my warehouse and they're like, "What? Like what's happening?" You know, because it's just so big. It's not efficient, which I like because it's kind of a barrier to entry,
right?
For me, but yeah, it's like there's just containers in and out.
And your customers, like I can't even do the math on how many customers you must be running. Over 1 million.
Yeah.
Right? You must have over, and that's mind-blowing. And I think people need to look at that as well when they're looking at business. For me, a $20 business is less appealing than a $1,600 unit business, right? Because the when people look at companies, and this is kind of a handicap to, I think, bankers and people in general, when they say, hey, it's a $10 million or $20 million, whatever dollar business, $1 billion business. When they're getting there with a $100,000 car, or if they're getting there with a $20 bottle, is enormously different. The amount of shipping labels that you have to do, we're spending the same amount of time as you are on a $1,600 unit as a $20 unit. So the investment you guys and the efficiencies you must run need to be extremely respected, because I look at it as in the aspect of, holy crap, you guys are moving extremely heavy and hard to get to those numbers. And man, with all due respect, that is awesome. You guys crushed it. That is, I was shocked. I'm like, wait a second. 8 figures at $20 or $40 or $50 with your bundle, which I totally agree with, by the way, you were talking about on that honest e-commerce. That's a huge, important part of the business, but golly, $20 a piece.
Yeah. And it's top to bottom, like, so my brother, Nate, the youngest brother, he's over our warehouse and trying to figure out so we don't work weekends.
Right.
So they come in on Monday, super heavy. And we'd usually do releases on weekends. So some Mondays are really heavy. And then it has to taper. And then you have to figure out seasonality. And then you have to figure out, because it has to be like, okay, Nate, you need to figure out how to get 6,000 orders out the door today. Mm-hmm.
So you're printing 6,000 labels.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? Do you use like ShipStation or?
Yeah, we use ShipStation.
Yeah, so do we.
We love ShipStation.
So do we. It's been a freaking amazing tool, right? Mm-hmm. So that's another thing that people get confused with. You know, it's not abnormal to sit inside your basement or sit upstairs in a room and package it out the door. And then that's really hard to see how to scale. So you come in, how do I do my first orders? How do I get this? Okay, now we start advertising and selling through influence, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. That's the easiest point of entry. And again, paid ads are one thing, but using a friend's, family's level of share really helps out the gate. But at the same time, when you go to scale the shipping side, you look at it and you think this is undoable. But it does evolve into itself.
Well, and a lot of people use 3PLs.
Like we do in California.
Yeah, like and we do in the UK.
Do you?
And it's awesome. Like
right. Fulfillment. Third-party logistics when you say 3PL. So just so you guys know.
Mm-hmm. Like having a warehouse is not. We look at it as two separate businesses, which the same way with your manufacturing. Yep. Not a good business. Very low margin. Lot of work. Like there's a lot of issues. Heavy investment. Heavy capital investment. Yeah. Not a great business. And then you have this front business that's an excellent business, and it's just kind of carrying.
And one's bleeding the other.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you are thinking long term, that's how you have to do it.
Consider 3PL.
No.
Or just
in-house.
Look at it in-house. You do. That's
because
what we do.
That's how you control.
Yep.
If the power goes out and your 3PL has, I'm just trying to think of a big brand, a more important customer, whose orders are going out first?
Them always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have that problem too. So we run into those in our 3PL places where they're working with like Adidas, right? Yeah. Well, guess who's getting the trump? Right?
That's exactly right.
They win, and that's okay. So one thing I want to ask you, you mentioned UK. So you take the United States as an American or as a United States company, it's pretty easy to start shipping nationwide, which is the biggest market on the planet when it comes to dollars, not necessarily in people. How'd you get to the UK?
I asked some friends that I knew. They knew some people that were doing e-commerce businesses, and they were in the UK. I asked them what fulfillment center they were using. And then my director of operations, this was kind of a big eye-opener for me, because I was like, hey, I want to get to the UK. Just handled it. Like really? I didn't hear hardly anything.
From your director of operations, internal?
Yeah, and I think he's 25.
Wow.
And
so what was your sales avenue over there? Amazon or?
No, we stood up a website just like ours. We're doing the same exact strategies. Like we had volume, so we had tested it with like DHL, like try to get a really good duties paid ship rate to them. But so we knew there were customers over there, and then there were some like, hey, did we do the whole European Union? Do we service Australia out of there? But we just hit the UK
only. Mm-hmm. So how did you set up your tax structure? Did you have to set up a separate company in the UK?
No, and it's how you decide to import.
Okay.
Like there's all those things in there, but yeah, it's still just under our
American brand.
Yep, U.S. company. We do have an accounting firm there to deal with our taxes piece.
Okay. Which
is important. But the thing is, like early on, it's really good to just do and then ask for forgiveness.
I 100% agree. We live there.
Like, yes. Like, just get it done. Like, go, And then you can always figure it out later,
And if you have to pay a little penalty, so be it.
Yeah. Cost of business.
Yep, it is. So you go through this next stage. Now, where did you see this hockey stick type movement. Was that last year during COVID?
I feel like it's been every year. So like we just figure out, like we stumble upon like little things. So like we did the sleeve, and I did it in like black, gray, and mint, like our best sellers. And then I have a picture of me and my friend who does all of our paid media. We're sitting at a table, and I have all these prints in front of me, and it's just like a dumb picture, like he's doing like a dumb little wave or something. And this is when it was just like us three in the office, and we did prints on these sleeves. We couldn't keep them in stock. Like they would come in. I started airing them. I was airing like 50,000 units at a time to get them here.
Just off that picture.
No. So that picture was kind of the ideation phase of where we were like,
where you're coming up with the idea.
Yeah, we're like, what print should we do? And we got samples in, and we were choosing which ones, and that's what that picture was. And we did like a floral, we did a leopard.
And then there was a hockey stick after that concept.
Well, it was hard because we could never keep anything in stock. So we came out with the colors, and then a certain color would sell more than the other, and then sales would dip once it was sold out, and then we'd get it in stock, and then
try to revive it.
Yeah, so like our first 2 years were just like that. Like if we could have kept stuff in stock all year, it would have been a much different company, like really early. But we just had to learn and like kind of tweak stuff.
And
this is our This is our first year of not having problems with stock outs, which is kind of
compared to everybody
ironic.
else on the planet. Good for you.
Yeah, like our supply chain team has just done great and like prepared, adjusted lead times. Obviously, we have to tie up more cash in holding inventory and stuff. But
did you in your capital raises? You've never done a VC raise or a PE raise. Mostly traditional banking lending. And do you use local banks, big banks?
Local bank. So I bank with Cash Valley Bank.
Okay.
Really like the guys there, and
they've trusted in you and given you lines of credit to help you.
Everything has been through the SBA.
Oh, awesome.
So
it's working for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually impressed with the COVID stuff they rolled out. Like all the fees they dropped, the interest rates on the, like, I was really pleased with the government. I was like, wow, like they're like really trying and
it helped you a lot.
It helped me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good. And we experienced, the latter didn't get any benefit really in the aspect of that. It didn't help us at all.
Yeah.
The doors it did, right? We came in early. Everybody was nervous. We did the PPP side. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
We didn't know if it was going to fall. But, you know, one of our buildings, like this asset, there's the 6 buildings here, that was under an SBA note. And they were letting interest go and not having payments. I'm like, well, look, I don't need to. Like my tenants, there wasn't even a way to not do it. Mm-hmm. You couldn't not do it. Mm-hmm. Like you had to have your interest forgiveness, and they were making the pay. I'm like, look, I have BMC West. I have some big tenants in this property. I don't know why they were doing that. So some of it, I thought they went even overboard when it wasn't necessary. But again, I'm not mad about it. I'm not whining. I'm just saying that it was so well.
They were very aggressive,
executed.
Yeah, and protecting the economy.
I agree, and I think if landlords in every aspect would look at it and say, hey. For example, if the restaurant next door was one of my tenants, I would have easily walked over there and said, look, you're exempt as long as I'm exempt from payment.
Yeah.
You don't need to pay rent. Mm-hmm. That would have been an easy one for me. Now, when most of my tenants are in the home industry and they're busier than they've ever been, I'm not going to go do that.
Yeah.
Right. So you go in now. So to share with you, my first year in business, I think I did like 30 grand.
Yeah.
Right. And then the next year was like 150 grand. Mm-hmm. And the next year was like 1.1 or 1.2 million, and the next year was 2.9 million. And for me, I'm like, holy crap! Look at how big that goes. Is that kind of the same?
Yeah, and that's hard because you're looking at like X% of growth. Like that's really hard to fund.
Anything over 25%, banks hate you.
Yeah, it's really hard to fund and figure it out. But
I got no from everyone. By the way, we didn't get a debit card till like 2019.
Well, you can't. You can't even get loans until you have 2 years of taxes. I really don't like that. Like, yeah.
You should be able to lean on your personal credit.
Yeah.
Which they don't want to do that either.
They won't even talk to you.
Right? No, they don't. They don't even talk to you.
Let me see 2 years of tax returns, and you're like, I started this year.
Right. So what do you want?
See ya. So
how would somebody that didn't have the funding? Obviously, you need a little bit, 13, 15, 20 grand. And we started for 24,000, by the way.
Yeah.
So really close. And that was because of John Porter. We covered in a previous podcast, but he stepped in and gave us the first one. But the out the gate money was $24,000. So in that window of 0 to 25,000, real realistic. And there's, I think almost everyone, and I'm not going to say everyone, can come up with friends, families, or fools inside that window. and some dedication. You may have to save for a couple of years and work 3 jobs, which I don't think either one of us feel bad about.
Yeah.
Work 3 jobs. Oh, well, I'm going to have to work 3 jobs to save that.
It's just like you were talking about, like carrying the walls into the expo center. Like, do what it takes.
Do it, cowboy. If it's 3 jobs, okay, do it. But don't just sit back and hate on people that are.
Yep.
Right? So you go through that phase, and then this last year, did Corona just skyrocket you?
Yeah.
Did that make a huge difference to your world?
Yeah, it just shifted. It kind of shifted everything. Like, hey, we can't go out and shop, so we're shopping online, you know? So, yeah, it was a huge spike.
Was there any magic potion to your internet marketing that you've seen that was dynamic shift in your growth?
Nothing magic.
Nothing. It's just consistency.
Yeah.
Of data.
And
photos.
I always want to find that magic thing. And the longer I've been around, there's no secrets.
No, just push, huh? And spend and make mistakes.
Yep.
Hurry up.
Talk to people, consume information. Yeah. There's try a lot of stuff, keep what works.
Yeah,
But
right.
the more stuff you try, the more your odds of being right, the more your odds of uncovering the next thing. But I think that's very true to like just evolution in general.
Yeah, I agree. If you were out there to tell people, hey, man, if you're looking under 30 to grow a company like you've done and mind-blowing volume, I mean, that's a lot of people, a lot of bottles to ship. 6,000. I don't know if people understand what it takes to ship 6,000 labels. I mean, just the stickering time, like almost. I mean, we go out there with our doors and our ladders and we're in there just printing and sticking and finding the right product. And, you know, we have a lot of variations and we do make mistakes at times where we've put the wrong label on the wrong door and some dude gets a white one instead of a black one or vice versa, or a different wood type. What you guys are producing out of that is crazy. 6,000 stickers. And I know there's companies that do more, but even coming from a company that does way less in volume of just shipping labels, it may seem like minutia to you guys out there, but oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've really had to spend a ton of time and money in the warehouse. Like it takes a lot of capital, a lot of
crazy
tweaking, like figuring it out.
Do you automate your labeling? Is it automated now?
So how it works is they'll batch pick everything. Okay. So all the accessories like live at the packing stations on like roller carts, and then they'll batch pick the jugs or the main products, and they'll take a batch to the pack station, and then they have individual packing slips of the orders at that packing station that went with that batch pick. They scan it, and they put it in the envelope, put it on the scale, shoots out a label.
Who helped you develop that?
Jake, my brother.
Are you kidding me? You didn't hire some logistic magician?
No, we didn't hire any. Like we do not pay for.
You cowboyed it again.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
All of that stuff is just trying. It's internet. It's talking to people at ship station. It's endless time. Like, Jake and Nate
so
just
impressive.
figure it out.
I'm like, who do I call to figure out how to do that? And you guys have just done it.
Yep.
My gosh, Hayden, that's awesome. If you were out there talking to the person that's holding themselves back, afraid of failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say?
I'd like to keep it simple, but I think it's how we look at failure. Like failure is not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. Like failure is learning, and it's how you view it. Like I have tons of goals that you could consider are failed goals, but if I'm still working towards them, you only fail once you give up.
Perfectly.
Once you're like done, you're like, nope, not doing this anymore.
Then it's a fail.
If you are still like, just because you have had one failed business or one failed attempt, that doesn't mean you failed as an entrepreneur. As long as you're on to the next thing, and you're thinking like, what do I do next? How do I get better? What did I learn? So I think it's how we look at failure, and it should be a positive thing. It should be a learning experience.
Fail fast, fail frequent.
Yep, fast.
And as frequent as you can, right? Do it as much as you can. Find failure fast.
Yep.
And fail as frequently as you can.
Well, and we have it on the wall. It says fail well. And like, what is failing well? And it's like learning from your mistake. It's planning. Like if you have a business plan, it's like, okay, where am I going to fail? How can I identify those things? And if they do present themselves, what are my reactions? How do I do it? And that's failing well. Just like really understanding it and going for it.
It's huge. So when these guys out in the shop, I can tell you they break and damage doors that are $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yep.
They let things pass. Some of those doors are 10 grand.
Yeah.
They let things pass through, and then they get felled at the last minute, and then they're just, we can't save it. It was staying, throw it in the garbage, right? Yep. They all look at you at first like, oh crap, I'm going to lose my job. I will not fire someone for that. Just please don't do it again.
Learn from it.
Yeah, just don't do it again. And Kevin Ward, we had Chief Ward that had that line of duty death in Layton, at Layton City. He wasn't the chief at the time, but I asked, how do you exercise those? And why did you not let that captain go? Well, why would I ever let the captain go that learned the hardest lesson ever in the fire world?
I'm not going to do it again.
He would never, I can assure you that guy's the last person in the department that's going to allow a line of duty death.
Yep.
Same goes for business, I think. I encourage that opportunity to fail. Yeah. But hopefully, I think, and I don't mean this cliche, but when you use a Britney Spears example, early on, they're so successful and they end up just always winning. And I'm not saying she always won. I'm sure she had a few hurdles on the way. But you started the Mickey Mouse Club and end up to be the superpower. And then when you finally have a hiccup, the fall is so far that they don't know how to digest failure. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of it. And I think if we take and appreciate those little falls off the step rather than the cliff, then the fall isn't so hard because we understand and recognize and learn how to cope with the failure.
Yeah, it's funny because I talked early on. I was like, the best part about business is the things that you learn and the person that it makes you become. Oh, if you started a business and you immediately became rich, it wouldn't be enjoyable because you wouldn't understand how to spend your money. You wouldn't be able to handle it. You couldn't just become a CEO overnight. You couldn't just do all these things. Like, it would be a disservice to you. So it takes time. It takes failures. It takes losses. It takes mistakes, and it takes being vulnerable and like self-aware. And that's what like builds you into like that person that now you can handle it. Yeah. So
did you package that like in a perfect little box? I was like, we need to write that down.
Yeah, good thing it's recorded.
Yeah, that one I think we need to put that on a little sign because that was really well packaged. I love it. I love it. I love. Where do you see yourself? Where are you headed? What's your goal?
That's people ask me that, and it gives me a little bit of anxiety because I'm just thinking of my next week.
Amen.
So there's just so much going on. I have very broad, vague goals for where I want to be when I'm in 5 years from now. And like what I want to do and achieve, but like immediately, like I want to grow Hydrojug as big as I can, as quick as I can, and impact as many people as I can along the way.
So what are your thoughts on a business plan? When you say you have really broad-based goals that are vague 5 years from now, what do you believe in business plans?
What do I think of them in general?
In general, what do you think about a business plan?
I think you figure a lot out along the way, so like as you go.
When you sit down for the SBA and you go to write your loan and you give them a business plan, what did you think about that?
It's garbage.
Total BS.
Yeah. Garbage.
So do you have a business plan? I'm like, not fail.
Yeah.
Right. This is my plan.
I'll go door to door.
Right. I think business plans have their place for an institution or a company to know kind of, but I think it wraps more into the mission statement of the business than it does a business plan. My concern about a business now, saying, hey, when I see this 5 years from now, I see Murphy Door being here, and here. This is the top line revenue I want to generate, and this is kind of the concept of how I'll produce it and distribute it. Fine. But if you're going to go through and kind of declare every turn signal or every right or left turn, I think you're going to cause a problem. And I think one of the issues with an over-detailed business plan, depending on who the person is and how OCD they are, it can be handicapping, right? In the aspect of, this is my plan.
Yeah.
Right. There's positive to having a straight plan. I'm like, your goal is to be in LA by noon. Right. That's a good aspect.
Yep.
But at the same time, we don't know what the roads look like.
Yep.
So we need to kind of create those along the way.
I think there's good like high level milestones, and then risk mitigation is probably more important than having an actual business plan.
100% agree. And secondary and tertiary plans and ideas, right? Of what, okay, this is going to happen. Early, I think when I was young, the first business I had, hurdles hit me in the balls.
Yeah.
I'd stop in my tracks and feel failed, right? You're like, hey, man, I lost. This sucks. And then you just kind of feel completely defeated.
Yeah, I still feel like that. Even when Hydrojug's number 33, I still get those.
Yeah.
and like where I feel defeated. Like I tell my wife, I'm like, there's days I come home and I need to have energy when I come home because I have 2 little girls, you know,
Yeah.
and then my wife too. And I got to have energy and like be like a dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, some days I want to come home and like go in the bathroom and like lay on the floor and just stare, you know? And that's like reality. Like, I think you have to know how to deal with those times. But if I hadn't ever gone through them, I wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. I think we need to appreciate those times. And I think we need to go lay on the floor.
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And if people feel like they're not going to have, have those problems, you're going to miss out. You need to have those problems. You need to lay on the floor.
Yep.
You need to feel defeated. You need to register how you're feeling, digest it, and then act on it.
Yep.
But recognize it's all part of this growing process. You use the gym a lot. It's just like breaking down muscles to grow them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And business is just that, right? How do you build back stronger, right? How do you take it down? We get hurt. We get wounded. We're almost closed. You look at these huge turnovers of cash, and then you're like, how can I be tripping over 20 grand? So that goes to the conversation I had with Jeremy Andrus one day when he asked me, are you a 0 to 5 million CEO, or are you a 5 to 20 million CEO, or are you a 20 to 50 million CEO?
And they're all different.
And they all are different. Like, I can tell you for a fact, I don't want to be the $500 million CEO. Mm-hmm. I don't want to run an enterprise like that. I may not be the guy in 100 million. I don't know, right? Who knows when that transition occurs? But I'm not into these silo cellular type companies that are I'm with the accounting side. I've never visited with those, or marketing. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't appeal to me as much as the founder level CEO.
Yeah.
That takes a product from concept to fruition and then launches it nationwide and then creates a structure around it and then bounce. That's where I found where I really enjoy what I do. Mm-hmm. You know, have you thought about where you want to be?
Yeah, I think about it quite a bit, kind of like what I want out of it. The only thing that does concern me is if, like the holding it back piece. Like
the handicap.
Yeah. So I love a lifestyle business. I love going into work every day and working with the people that I do. Like, I mean, I work with my 2 brothers. They're my best friends. So
right.
like,
you look
it's
forward
great.
to it.
Yeah, it's awesome. My parents, they come in and clean on the weekends. You know, sometimes they'll come in on Mondays and clean. And so I get to see them. And we do a lot of fun stuff. Like, I'm buddies. We hire a lot of our friends too, because that's who we knew, like when we were starting it out. So it is really fun, and and I could see it as like a lifestyle business. I just don't want to open that door of like, I kept it at a lifestyle business and someone else was ready to take
it to a
Yeti
monster. Yeah.
So there's a balance.
It's a hard one, huh? Like,
that's super difficult.
I love it. It's like letting your teenager go move into his own apartment and you don't have control of it every day.
Well,
that's scary.
Well, and there's been steps, like kind of how you did it in dollar amounts, but I literally remember we were right down the road. We call it 203 because it was Suite 203. Mm-hmm. But I went in one day and it was a boys club. It was just me and Jake and Nate and Chris. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey guys, like I hired our first employee. They're going to be in an office. They're starting Monday. And those guys like looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what are you doing? You're ruining the business. Like, we can't have, like, this is our club, right? This is where we go and hang out and we ski and we go golf and like,
right.
we package orders in the morning and then we get to go play. So like, and that was a scary step. When I didn't really do that. That was a joke. But when I did actually hire our first in-house employee, that was like that next step. And it was scary and it was like uncomfortable. And then the next step is hiring like a management type person. And then the next step is leasing your first bigger warehouse. And then do you raise money? Like, there's all these uncomfortable steps along the way because it's like the business is growing up. Mm-hmm. And I've probably felt it like 4 times where I lose sleep over it and I'm a little bit sick to my stomach because I'm like, I don't necessarily want to do this because I'm very comfortable. Mm-hmm. But I don't want
comfort
to
does the exact same thing as we talked about. You're not breaking your muscles down to grow, right? So taking yourself out of your comfort levels every day is extremely important.
Yep.
Right. It's one of those things that you almost have to be disciplined at it because you get to a spot in your business where it's very easy to be complacent. And I'm super guilty of like, oh, you know what? It can ride.
Yep.
I'm not worried about payroll tomorrow anymore.
Well, and you can.
Right?
You could ride for 5 years.
Sure.
10 years. But
but it doesn't grow anything.
Yep.
And you can find yourself very easily justifiable to be lazy or to not put yourself outside of a comfort zone. And I don't mean lazy in that term, but just
complacent.
to be complacent, right?
Yep.
So I love it when sometimes I don't like to be complacent, or, I like complacency in some aspects. You just need the water to settle a little, and I have a hard time doing it.
There's a balance, and I've thought about that balance a lot. And the thing that really like rings true in my mind is content, but not complacent. So like you need to be very grateful for where you're at and like understand and be content with it.
You can be content with where you're at,
complacent.
but not complacent.
I think that's the good balance that I've found, because if you're always pushing, you can become, it can, if you're not content where you're at, you can become very entitled and very just dry and not consider other people's feelings or opinions or emotions. Like it can be negative. And that's where I think the content piece is important. But you can't be complacent. And
it's funny when you look at your, at Inc. I just go back to Inc. Number 33 on the Inc. 5000. That's a huge number. It seems like a place you could sit there and be content, right? Like, well, look at my number. I don't have to mic drop, almost, right? That's one of those feelings that you can get.
Yeah.
But then the discipline comes in to not be complacent with that, right? You can be happy and celebrate your success, because that's huge. But at the same time, looking forward on that growth is an important piece.
Yeah, people at the office always joke they can't tell like whether I'm happy or sad or excited or anything. And I just remember like in high school when like I had a football coach, and he was like, if you do something good, he's like, act like you've done it before.
Just pretend.
Yeah, act like you've done it.
That's
like,
no big deal.
Yeah, don't do a backflip.
Go to your car and then do it by yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing too, is like don't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows.
Right.
Like act like you've been there, and be a man about it. But
I think it can be off-putting sometimes too when you just over-celebrate. It's great to celebrate as a team.
Yeah.
But also looking at our growth trajectory, I believe if you lose that founder spirit, like, hey, we are going broke tomorrow if we don't push, and you push that at a level, that's where you're going to really win, right? I think when you get to that content place and you forget to not be complacent, that's where everything starts to degrade, and you start seeing these people that buy the fancy cars and the whatever else it is that they think that they need, a big house. And I'm not here to armchair quarterback. If a Lamborghini was what you felt like you wanted your whole life, and that was going to be your token of success, and that's what's going to make you feel successful, then by all means, then you get one.
Well,
right?
And for some people, buying a Lamborghini on their scale is like buying a Civic.
Right.
And
so you got to just look at it in an aspect. But what if it is, like I grew up, I was telling Curtis, I wrote in Lewis Weaver. Do you know Lewis? He was a firefighter in Ogden too, but he has LW real estate. He bought a Tesla Plaid.
Oh yeah.
Dude, that was fun.
Those are nuts.
It was awesome.
And it depends. It's like, what do you like? I think everyone has that thing that they really like. And if you're responsible about it, more power.
I celebrate it. But I think at the same time, none of those real things make me tick, right? I think the only thing I'd want, I said this before, is like a plane.
Yeah.
Just because I want to be home for dinner.
A plane would be really cool.
I want to go to my office in Kentucky and not make it a 2-day trip. Every time it's at least 2 and usually 3 days, just to go have a meeting. And I miss soccer and so, yeah, granted, you can charter it. Granted, there's better ways to fly. You can do it over. I know there's all this stuff, and you guys are going to hit me with it. It's okay. All I'm saying is it'd be cool to drive over here to the Ogden Airport, at my new office now that we just bought, that has the bridge that walks over, right? So you can go in, go to a hangar and take off, and then be back at the same hangar and be back to your office and be done in a day. Yeah. I think it's the closest thing you have to time travel, and it's, of course, an expensive, elaborate, probably exaggerative need. But that it's not that people can see that you have that. It's not driving around something flamboyant. And I'm a Wrangler guy and free T-shirt guy, but I'm not a big wave my flag for that.
Yep.
And again, I think it depends on what your mission is. And for me, money hasn't been the head title driver. I think in retrospect, yeah, we wanted to be able to have a job that we could quit fire and have enough to get by. But I don't think it was waving a flag of what kind of money is it. It's more of, I love the idea, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is my brand in your house, my brand in your car, my brand in your house, or in your hand, right? That I love. That to me gives me, I don't know, when I pull up and now you see your ladders, like I showed up to a rollover and here was a ladder on the car, and I'm like, dude, that's freaking cool. I'm on a call and there's a brand that I developed and I'm extricating somebody, but yet it's out on a rescue call. It was weird. And then I get a lot of pictures from other firefighters around the valley that they're like, hey, check this out. Yeah. And it's just kind of giddy for me. It's more rewarding than what does the net take look like.
Yeah, and I think if people do start it just because of money, those are the people that probably give up.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it. I think you're right.
There's just not...
That's not enough of drive.
There's like crazy, like I do believe a lot in like self-awareness, like self-improvement and like universal laws and like where you spend your time thinking and what you think about. I think most of the time it comes like the universe will present itself because you just, what was the habits? There's a, like if you are your habits, good or bad. And I think it's one step deeper. It's like you're your thoughts and your thoughts are your habits, good or bad.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And a lot of people, like if you're like, oh, I just want to, I think about being rich. I think about being rich. I think about being rich.
When you get there, it's pretty empty.
Yeah. But it usually happens. Like you figure out a way because it consumes you and you figure out a way to do it. But if that's your only motivation, I think it usually...
It'll come and go.
Yeah, it'll come and go, and you'll probably give up because you're just like, hey, it's not worth it. Because you don't see the money for a long time. But if it's about people and
Did that surprise you? So if someone said, hey, you're going to break 8 figures, what did you think? Oh, I'll have millions.
I remember I never thought Hydrojug would be where it was. I thought it was going to be a side hustle, and it was going to make my extra car payment.
Right.
You know?
So now would you think at 8 figures, now you're like, oh, I'm going to be so rich?
I don't think I've ever thought that.
Haven't you?
Mm-mm.
Well, I remember, I have to admit I'm guilty that I thought, well, as soon as I could do $1 million a year, dude.
Done.
Then all of a sudden, if I could break 10,
then
I don't have to worry about this crap anymore. And that's like, if I could break 20, then I don't have to worry about this crap anymore. The funny thing is as long as you're keeping your hands in the game, I believe we're going to experience the same thing. That you're like, how come there isn't all this cash printing at the back of the money press?
Yeah.
I think it's a felicity that we want to lead ourselves to believe in, and not to be a discouragement for people to think that that's what's going to happen. I think what we have to remind ourselves is what you're building isn't a Hydrojug mug. Mm-hmm. You're building a business, and what you're selling is the jug to sell your business. Yeah. And what we forget is we're trying to make our dollar off the $20 jug, when truly your cash is when you sell the jug company, not the jug in the middle. So you're building a superstructure around it. And we fail to see that this is just the avenue to build the structure, right? And we get blinded by thinking this is what's going to make our big payday, which it will in a sense. But what all that's doing is building the bigger structure that you're truly selling. And I think, you know, we when we were kids, if you could just make something that you could sell 1 million of, and it was for $1, you'd be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Right. That was the simple way of putting it. But when ultimately, even if you sold 1 million jugs and you just made a little bit, call it 10 cents, what you've built is a structure that when now people look at Hydrojug, they're wanting to look at the company. They're not trying to buy the jug, and your true asset is the business. And it's just a hard transitional phase. We look at trying to make all our money on the product, when truly we should focus on making all our money on the business that's selling or supporting the product. So optimizing this structure to give the best of this is where our paycheck comes from.
Yep.
Not here.
Yep.
I mean, it does in a rudimentary way, but what's I think discouraging to most entrepreneurs is realizing that it's not the 1 million cups that's going to make you the money. It's the company that created the asset. 1 million cups.
Yep, for sure.
Hard to understand.
Yeah, and you kind of it's a tough reality because
this is hard to sell.
It comes quick. I remember talking to you. I sat down and I was like, it's just over and over again, and you told me, you're like, yeah, it'll never end. As long as you're growing, it'll never end. You'll always be putting your money back in.
Always. So ultimately, I think, I love the fact that you're here because you were one of those young entrepreneurs that just hit it out of the fence, over the fence. And I thought, man, you're really willing to take on a struggle. There's some cups out there, man. You're ready to take that. And I just remember walking away. I'm like, man, that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You took something in a well-saturated market. I'm not going to say oversaturated. At a high level, the jug, obviously, that wasn't really highly competitive. But for the naive eye like myself, I'm looking, oh, man, there's a lot of those. Where do you're going to see your niche? And I really respect the fact that you could see it.
Well, I still talk to people, and they ask me what I do, and I just say, I sell water bottles, And they are like, wow, like, do you need some money, like, from me? Like, are you doing okay? And that's fine, like, because people still, like, it's hard. Like, I get it. Like, I would never, outside looking in, I would never think about Hydrojug the way I do, being on the inside.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's a weird concept.
I can say I can honestly say I totally missed it. Totally missed it. I'm like, I don't know how he's going to do that.
Yeah, I think
how do you make like that money at $20? Well, and that's one of those things again. Even though now, and I've had the luxury of knowing Hayden, but and his dad, and I've been able to keep track of what's going on. So I've been watching how wrong I was in my initial idea of how hard it would be to make a lot of money with that type of business or a lot of volume and revenue too, right? I think when you're out there trying to pitch your idea, if you really truly have a deep appreciation for whatever it is that you're pushing, don't let somebody as dumb as myself or somebody else decide your trajectory or your future.
Yeah.
Right. Because we may not quite have understood it. Right. And I don't remember getting the initial pitch. Like I saw milk jugs and this is what I'm going with, but I very well could have, and I still just missed it. Right. I think for everybody's sake, you're going to hear it, and you're going to hear it for at least 80%, if not 90 or more. But if there's a niche of 10% of the people, you're still talking about a lot of opportunity.
Tons.
Right. So,
and right now it's easier than ever to reach those people, to start a business, reach those people directly at a good price. Like it's still the gold rush.
It is,
as far as social media goes.
People need to act if that's what they want to do and not be afraid to start. So I thank you so much for coming, and I hope some people take some insight from it. And I thank you for being so open.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Another Ogden guy, man. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. It's Hayden Wadsworth, Hydrojug. Go ahead and drop your pitch, hydrojug.com, right?
Thehydrojug.com.
Okay, see, fix me.
Thehydrojug.com. We are actually acquiring hydrojug.com, so soon.
Good.
Soon to come. That's where, as social media is just Hydrojug. We're on all social media platforms. We do a little bit of a vlog on YouTube. So I don't post a ton on my personal social media. Just I feel like it's a time constraint, even though it's not a good excuse. But
no, where can they find you? What retailers are you at?
Right now we are not at a lot of retailers. We just recently hired like our sales team, but we are working with a few large retailers, and that will be available at soon.
Good.
So
again,
D2C.
Not that I think that retailers are the most important. I honestly think, and I'm going to get shot for this probably from my own people. I don't necessarily agree that business to consumer is always the best answer. I'm saying a direct to consumer model is beautiful. I get to keep the pulse of my customers, the direct feedback from my customers. I can control the experience of my customers, and Big Box does not offer that. They have thousands of products that they can't really share the story very well, and people engage or interact or purchase a product with a different concept or whatever that agent or assistant at that big box was trying to sell them, which was completely wrong.
Yep.
Right. And I think I think D2C, for you guys that are out there that feel like the Home Depot, and I don't mean to drop Home Depot in that aspect. I just saying it because that's my experience. Or these other big box retailers are your only key to big dollars. Here's another one right here that's got 8-figure revenues without big box. So don't feel like that is your answer to success. It's just not required anymore.
Nope.
You can engage personally.
I think it's better to go reverse.
At least to start, because then you learn your product.
Well, it's easier.
It is easier.
A lot less barrier to entry.
A lot less barrier to entry, and you can build the product your customers truly want, and your ability to pivot is immediate.
Well, and think about your pitch to big box. You go to someone in Houston and say, look, I'm selling $5 million in Houston however often. Do you want to carry my product? Yep. So
if you need to. And then the other benefit to that is you can demand the margin being dropped.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not giving you 50%. I'll give you 25.
Yeah.
right? And then you're going to get pushback. Everybody's going to say, no, I want 55%. And then we're going to come back and say, well, we'll give you 23. We looked at 25. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Right? So that's typically how those negotiations go. And again, if you have the right product and people, you can show a traction and consistency in volume through your own personal direct-to-consumer channels, your customers are going to benefit huge. And your retailers are going to benefit huge, which means you can let them have less of your cookie.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, I'd say do it. Again, there's a lot of trauma along the way. There's a lot of lost sleep. Even after you're number 33 on the Inc. 5000 list, we still lose sleep. You still lose sleep. I've never gotten close to that, by the way.
You don't work less either.
He beat me by 100 times this year. I did 33. I'm number 3,300 on Inc. 5000, and he's 33. So I'm not going to let him. But it's 100 times beat.
We're a younger company.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just going to give you that giant trophy. I only beat you by 100x. It's fine, he says. So, nonetheless, thank you everybody for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you can. 90 Proof Wisdom is the name of the podcast, and we love that you watch. Please tell us what you like about it. Tell us what you don't like about it. Just as important. We'll do what we can. And again, if you have a story or you know someone that does, we'd love to have them on the podcast. Thanks again for watching. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to 90 Proof Wisdom Podcast. Hopefully there was a takeaway for you. If you like what we're doing or even our efforts, tell your friends about it. Let us know what we could do better. Again, thank you for listening to 90 Proof Wisdom Podcast. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button.